こんにちは、タックです。今日のスピーキング練習を始めます。Language acquisition by children. One of the topics most central to psycholinguist research is the acquisition of language by children. The term acquisition is preferred to learning, because many psycholinguists believe that no psychological theory of learning, as currently formulated, is capable of accounting for the process whereby children, in a relatively short time, come to achieve a fluent control of their native language. Since the beginning of the 1960s, research on language acquisition has been strongly influenced by Chomsky's theory of generative grammar, and the main problem to which it has addressed itself has been how it is possible for young children to infer the grammatical rules underlying speech they hear and then to use these rules for the construction of utterances that they have never heard before. It is Chomsky's conviction, shared by a number of psycholinguists, that children are born with the knowledge of the formal principles that determine the grammatical structure of all languages, and that it is this innate knowledge that explains success and speech of language acquisition. Others have argued that it is not grammatical competence as such that is innate, but more general cognitive principles, and that the application of these to language utterances in particular situations ultimately yields grammatical competence. Many recent facts have stressed that all children go through the same stages of language development regardless of the language they are acquiring. It has also been asserted that the same basic semantic categories and grammatical functions can be found in the earliest speech of children in a number of different languages, operating in quite different cultures in various parts of the world. Roman arch. Ancient Rome greatly influenced architecture and continues as a major influence even today. One architectural feature Rome perfected is the arch. Romans did not invent the arch, but they greatly expanded its use and designed arches that could support massive amounts of weight. Roman arches are comprised of several parts such as a keystone, a boussole, and a pier. The keystone or capstone is the center stone found at the top of the arch. In this position, it supports the surrounding bricks or stones and helps distribute the weight of the remainder of the arch. Its name keystone comes from its importance. Without it, the arch would collapse. Romans were the first to use keystones in their arches. The keystone is surrounded on each side by boussoles or wedge-shaped bricks or stones. The term boussole comes from French and Latin roots meaning to turn. The thrust of the boussoles pushes outward and downward in a Roman arch. Roman arches are noted for the semicircular non-pointed curves. The use of boussoles creates arches which can be used to span large distances and which can bear heavy loads. An example of this can be seen in the arches used in construction of ancient Roman aqueducts, many of which still stand today. The keystone and boussole of an arch need a base on which to rest. These bases are called piers. A Roman arch's pier is the wall or stone on which the arch rests. Concrete and stone were often used in the construction of piers, which are usually square or rectangular in shape. Romanticism. Like many literary and artistic movements, Romanticism started as a reaction against the perceived structure of the preceding age. In this case, early Romantic writers wished to move away from the philosophical formalism of neoclassical age. Man's relation to the natural world was re-established, while the basis of philosophy began to shift toward what would later be called transcendentalism, the belief system that prized God back in nature. Landscape art, gardening, music, even theology re-established the place of humans within a completely untamed natural world. The emphasis in all areas of creative endeavor was in the reliance upon emotions and the natural senses while placing humans in a new Eden. Critics and historians Now look back on the years between 1850 and 1855 as the American Renaissance, primarily due to the fact that so many writers of pivotal importance were busily recording their work at the time. Emerson, Thoreau, Melville, Hawthorne, and others, moreover transcendentalism, were taking its place as a serious philosophical stance. Beginning in the Far East and traveling through Europe, transcendentalism finally found its way to America through the writings of Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. The basic premise resides in the realization that neither theism nor deism can adequately answer the burning question of man's relationship with God. Instead, transcendentalists chose a form of pantheism to articulate their view of the universe. The major group of transcendentalists comprised young intellectuals in the Boston area who were, for the most part, concerned with the theology of the liberal Unitarian Church. Imitation and expression. The movement away from artist imitation or representation probably started in France with the work of the Impressionists in the 19th century. The word impressionist is itself suggestive. The artist is not just painting a representation, because artwork is giving a personal impression of what is seen. The artist is not trying to be a photographic realist. The late 19th and early 20th century therefore created a sharp break with all past understandings of art. A painting or a piece of sculpture no longer had to refer to something familiar. It could instead consist only of abstract lines, shapes, and colors. Such art can be said to express the inner life, imagination, or emotions of the artist, or it may be art that refers to nothing at all, just pure abstraction for its own sake. The art of expression theory has generally replaced the art of imitation belief. Critics have contended, for instance, that all representational art is to some degree abstract. While some features of its subject are emphasized, others are ignored or downplayed. The Gothic art of the Middle Ages was abstract to some degree in that it did not pretend to depict literal reality. It was intent on portraying religious symbolism, but the abstractions were not so removed from normal experience that they were not easily recognizable by the viewers. Abstract portraits of saints and depictions of events in the life of Jesus had become familiar to viewers by long association. Emily Dickinson, 1830 to 1886. In that totality we call style, Emily Dickinson's poems were unique, no doubt influenced by her Yankee heritage. She squeezed words of meaning into the smallest space. Her longest poem extends to only 50 lines. Such compression makes her work aphoristic, like Emerson's, but also results in occasional obscurity. The language of the poems is imprecise, instantly expressive, and richly connotated. Like Elizabethan, Dickinson not only exhibited lust for all kinds of words, but also took notable liberties with grammar. She delighted in such interactions as ambiguity, incongruity, paradoxes, and puns. A method well described in her poem, Tell all the truth but tell it slant. Capitalization served her as a sort of underline to emphasize any word she wished. For punctuation, she used dashes with such abandon that her manuscripts have constantly frustrated their editors. Thomas H. Johnson and others even attribute a musical function to these dashes. Her prosody at first sight seems the most derivative of her technique, for her meters are essentially those of English hymn. In fact, most of her poems, and probably the best known of all meters, the so-called common meter, used traditionally in ballads as well as hymns. Yet Dickinson never felt bound to these forms but experimented with them, sometimes mixing several meters in a single poem. Rhyme in her hands proved equally flexible and functional. She frequently abandoned exact or approximate rhymes. Although this freedom with rhyme invites comparison with such poets as Bowen and Emerson, it is safe to say that Dickinson went the farthest in it. お疲れ様でした。